Hey everyone, Mr. Aaron's again. So we've been talking about estimating some. Today we're taking that next step to go from estimating to solving once again. We are solving equations by multiplying or dividing and using decimals. So this is going to be pretty similar to things we've seen before. We've solved the equations. We know how to do that. We've estimated with decimals. We know how to do that now. And today we're going to put those two things together and we're going to solve equations by multiplying or dividing decimals. All right, let's get into it right here. I have a tip for you, maybe worth putting in your notes. My tip is when dividing decimals, you can move the decimal point as long as you move it to the same on both sides. I'll show you examples of that as we go through our work. But for example, I have one right here. 1.2x equals 2.4. If I'm going to divide each side by 1.2, I can actually just turn this into time. Look at it, it's similar to timesing each side by 10. I move that decimal spot on each of them, and that's okay. That's allowed. You're allowed to do that. It's the same as multiplying each side by 10. You can think about it like that if you really want to. We're making those decimals easier for us to solve. So right here, we're dividing. Right now, if I want to, like I said, the first tip is that I can move those decimals. I'm going to do it. I'm going to move this decimal to here on this side. Whatever I do to that side, I have to do on this side. That allows me to rewrite this as, if I move that decimal there, this becomes 9r equals negative 54. I move those decimals. 9r, move it one spot on each. Now from here, all I got to do is divide. Divide each side by 9. We know this is going to be a negative 6. There's your answer. We move those decimals. We solve it just like we did regular. Let's give it another shot here. I see this decimal. I want to make this a positive right here. Gotta move it over there. If I were to move it 2 spots, then I have to move it 2 spots. And you can see that on the next one. We might give that a try. That makes this 8x equals negative 16. You got it. Divide each side by 8. You know the rest of the steps. That leaves us with x equals negative 2. All right. Got one more example of that here. We're going to take each here. I'm going to start by moving it once on each. That would let me rewrite it as 11.5 equals 23x. We still have a decimal. If we wanted to, we can move it another spot. We'd have to add a 0 over here. Just so you can see that, I'm going to showcase that over here. This would become 115 equals 200, and I move that decimal one more spot, makes that a 230x. It's kind of like how I said, we multiply each side by 10, and we did it again, multiply each side by 10. Right here, you could solve these at either spot. I'm going to start by solving it over here. Divide each side by 230, divide each side by 230. If you look at this, you might notice 115 plus 115 equals 230. So this is the same as 1/2 equals x. You can also see that over here. We can divide each side by 23. 11.5 times 2 is 23. 1/2 equals x. We're moving those decimal spots. We're solving just like we did last week, keeping those decimals as simple as we can. I got one more example for us here for dividing, then we'll hop on to adding. We have an oil field that averages 16.8 thousand barrels of oil per day. So we know that's how much they make in a day. How long would it take to produce 200, that's a bad 2, looks like a zoo, it looks like it says zoo, 200,000 barrels. So we know in one day, they can make 16.8, so I'm going to do 1 day times the amount of days to equal 200 barrels. What I'm going to do here, I got this decimal right here. I can start by moving this over, getting rid of the decimal. Whatever I do over there, I have to move over the decimal right here as well. What's that going to do? That's going to add a 0. That's going to make this 180D, or 168D equals 2,000. That's the biggest step right there, making sure that when you move that decimal, you add a 0 as well. You can think about that as timesing each side by 10, if that's what you want to do. That's allowed. We can times each side by the same number. You know that. Last step here, divide each side by 168. I'm going to have to do a little bit of long division here. I'm a little rusty on my long division. We'll see how I do. Goes into there once. That's 168. Subtract. Make this a 10. Make that a 1. Make this a 9. Make that a 10 leaves 2, 3, 1, 0 over there. So we got 32. That should be scribbled out. We just got a 1 up here right now. Put 0 down there. You can go in there once as 168. I know this is going to be a decimal now because I don't have anything left. So I know it's going to be 11 point something. 11 point something. I know it's going to take more than 11 days. So I know that it will take, at the very minimum, 12 days. I figured out that because it's going to be more than 11. It's going to be 11 point something. So it'll take at least 12 days. It'll take more than 11 days, but it won't take a 13. I know that one might have been a little confusing. If that one didn't make sense to you at the end there, don't worry about it. All you have to know is that we divided each side by 168. Got our answer. All right, backside, multiplying. I have another tip for you here. These are good to put in your notes, I would say. Great thing to put in your notes. My tip is line up the problem regular, then count the number after the decimals and move yours that far. I know that sounds really confusing. We'll see some examples of it. My example here is actually our first example, so we'll start by just going right into our first example here. I think it should make some sense for you. So how do we get this m by itself? Well, right now it's m divided by negative 7.2. So in order to undo divide by negative 7.2, we're going to divide by, or times by negative 7.2. Times on each side, whatever you do to one side, have to do to the other. These cancel out, leaving us with m equals negative 12.5 times negative 7.2. I see it's two negatives. I know it's going to be a positive. Now all I do, here's what I do. I line this up just like I regularly would. I'm going to leave out those decimals for now. I've got 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, 5. 2 times 1 is 2. Put down a 0. 5, because that's 35. 14, 17, carry the 1. 7, 8. Add these up. 0, 0, carry the 1. 0, carry the 1. Now I have 9,000 sitting here. How do I figure out where the decimal goes? Well, here's what you do. Here's my tip. That's what this is talking about right here. I see how many numbers I have after decimals. Right here I have 1. Right here I have 2. See, we got the 0.5, the 0.2. There's 2 decimals, so I go over 1, 2. My answer is 90. I had a 0.5, 0.2, move over 2 decimals. My answer is 90. We'll get some more practice with that if you're a little confused on how I got there. I know this is something you've learned before, so if you already know it, you can keep cruising along. All right, next one, we have r divided by negative 6 equals 0.5, 5/10. To get rid of this negative, divide by negative 6, we're going to times by negative 6 on each side. That's going to leave us with r over here. And we're going to know this is going to be a negative because we have 1 positive, 1 negative. If you look at this right now, you probably know that 0.5 times something is the same as dividing by 2. But for the sake of our learning, we're going to write this out, and we are going to write it as 0.5 times, actually we're leaving out those decimals like I said, so this just becomes 5 times 6. Do that in your head. That's 30. Where does our decimal go? Well, we have one number, just our one number behind the decimal here. We don't have any over here. We originally had a 0.0. Those don't count. We can put that there. It doesn't count, though. We can have as many zeros as we want there. They don't count. So we'll put decimal 1 spot over. We know our answer is negative 3. We know it had to be a negative because we did a negative times a positive. All right, next one here. We have s divided by 2.5 equals 5. What are we going to do to get s by itself? Well, you know it. We're going to times each side by 2.5. This leaves us with s. We know it's going to be a positive. Set this up as 25 times 5. Get rid of that decimal, like I said, or take it out for now. We'll worry about it later. That's going to be 5. Carry the 2. 10, 12, 125. Where does the decimal place go? Well, we have no decimals here, 1 decimal here, so we move it over 1 time. 12.5. All right, if that decimal rule is still not making sense to you, how we move it, I think it will in this problem. You're going to really see it on this problem. All right, they tell us Babe Ruth batted 522 times with an average of 0.393, 393 thousandths. What is his number of hits? So we got the little formula over here for us. They got us average equals hits divided by at-bats. They told us he batted 522 times. So I'm going to put that on the bottom. This is us working on those formulas. They told us his batting average was 0.393. Put that over here where it says average, and we have to figure out H. How do we get H by itself? Right now it's H divided by 522. Well, we're going to multiply each side by 522. Whenever we do that side, we got to do this side. These cancel each other out. Here's where I'm going to show the case, this tip one more time. So we have a decimal over here. To start, we're not going to worry about it being a decimal. We're going to write it out just like a regular multiplication problem. See how I have 393? I didn't worry about those decimals for now. This is important to keep everything in line when we got some big numbers like this. I might run out of room here. We'll see. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry a 0. 9 times 2 is 18. Carry a 1. 9 times 2 is 18. Becomes 19. Carry a 1. 9 times 5 is 45. Becomes 46. Carry a 0. 0. We got 2 zeros now. We're on our third number. We got 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 5 is 15. And we add it all up here. We got 6. 14. Carry the 1. That makes this 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 9 is a 1. Carry the 2. 2, 3, plus 12 is 15. Carry the 1. That becomes 10. Carry the 1. Becomes 2. So this gives us our number of 205,146. Now we have to figure out where the decimal goes there. Oh, sorry, I lost you on the end there. It was just some mental math, don't worry. We got to this number right here. We have to figure out where our decimal goes. So we count the number of decimals in our problem. How many decimals are in this one? There's 0 here. But over here we got 1, 2, 3. So we move this 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Our answer is H. How many hits did Babe Ruth get? 205. It's a decimal because the average kind of puts it off a little bit. So it's actually going to be H is approximately 205. But if you had H equals 205, that works as well. We're going to round up there and get rid of that bottom part. All right, so that's a little bit on decimals. If you have questions about this, about my rules for this, Wednesday would be a great time to hop into my office hours, ask me those. Otherwise, rock on with this homework.